Welcome back to Geeks and Grounds, a weekly podcast and monthly game club where we play games and brew good conversations together. I'm your host, Jenny Wyndham.
And I'm Joel Thomas.
And I feel like we have journeyed across this desert before, and I feel like we've stumbled upon this bar before.
The song is different, but it has the same refrain, I think.
A little bit of deja vu this week.
I think I literally wrote, it's deja vu all over again in my notes.
The repetition of deja vu all over again is just choice.
Perfect. For those of you who are not watching and didn't see both of us do the chef's kiss motion at the exact same time, you're missing out.
I hope you felt it in your souls. Even if you're not watching, I hope you got the sense as you were listening and it just like filled you with joy and determination.
Yes. We are on the same page in the same way two siblings journeying through the desert might be on the same page.
Oh my gosh. I'm like, but then which one survives? So if you're wondering what the heck we're even talking about, this month we are playing the game Arco. If you'd like to join in the conversation, right now is an interesting point to do that because we're talking about Act 4 during this episode. So if you wanted to start back at the beginning, go back 4 episodes and you'll start at Act 1. Basically, this game club is one where we play one game all month long. We talk about it all month long during the podcast. It's sort of an audio let's play ish meets like analysis, reaction, and critique. And by the end, we hopefully have experienced and savored a game together and come away with a deeper and understanding of it and a deeper appreciation of it, whether you enjoyed the game or not. It's just nice to be able to talk with other people about what you're engaging with.
One might say that we play games and brew great conversations, in fact.
I know. That's an interesting tagline. Should try
think about that
one. So that is the monthly brew. We're playing Arco. We're talking about it. But before that, we always love to stop by the pastry case before savoring the brew, get our snacks, get our basically the things that we're engaging with that are not Arco. It's also Friday and I'm
Arco.
Very tired. So the words are wording.
The words
in a
are
very
wording
unique way.
With you.
So yeah, I'm curious, what have you been just hanging out with this week?
Y'all, I've been waiting. And after a rewatch of season 2, the season 3 premiere of Wheel of Time dropped this week.
What?
And for those of you not familiar with Robert Jordan and then Robert Jordan via Brandon Sanderson's fantasy epic, it is like if Lord of the Rings is like the original OG fantasy, I think Wheel of Time is like the modern fantasy that is the template for a lot of like Western fantasy. Yeah. And I really enjoyed the book series and this TV series. Season 1 was like, okay, we're getting our bearings. Season 2 is one of the most compelling bits of fantasy television I've ever seen from anything. And so did a rewatch, hopped into episode 1 of season 3 last night, and it is starting off with a bang. I'm absolutely loving it. Did you get into the show at all?
I started it and for some reason I fell off, but it wasn't because I did not enjoy it. Because I actually, even though season 1 is a bit slow and I think you're totally right. It's getting, his feet underneath it. I still was very excited and like super happy to have it. But yeah, I just never continued. And I do really want to watch and like have something to binge. So it's kind of nice to say like, oh, season 3 started. Okay. I'm curious. Do the seasons follow, like, is season 1, book 1, season 2, book 2, or are they like extending out the books? Are they layering some of the books so that the timelines maybe of like book 1 and 2 and 3 like somehow weave in with one another?
I would say the weakness of season 1 is that it is pretty tightly bound to the book. Season 2 takes a lot of pacing liberties and brings things from different books forward.
Nice.
And season 3 seems to be taking a similar approach based on, the first episode. So we'll see where it goes. But
yeah,
I think they are sticking with the central plot point of each book.
Yeah,
is the central plot point of that season. but they're
Mm,
pulling forward a lot of things to like round out the story.
yeah.
Plus, they lost a main actor in the first season. Like, I'm not sure if he got fired or quit
Oh.
or whatever. But because of that, Matt's story diverges very hard from the book because they replaced the actor in season
Oh.
2. So,
That's fascinating.
yeah, I mean, I, God, it was just, it's been really fun. And I would, if anyone's like interested in getting in, I know even 2 seasons of an existing show can be very heavy. There's like a 15-minute summary of season 1 on YouTube. I'd recommend just watching that summary and then starting with season 2. And like,
Okay.
if you hear a word you don't know, just like look it up on Google and like move forward. Like, that's my rec for sure.
Okay, that's good to know. I feel I think that's good that they have that. I'm also not that person where I'm like, you know what? I will have a show on the second monitor while I'm working. I will have a show on while I'm cooking. So that's it's nice to also know that season 1 is one where I could do that and not worry about sitting and like watching the whole thing, especially
Mm-hmm.
if you're familiar with the books. So
Mm-hmm.
um
Yeah.
cool.
Totally agree. Brandon Sanderson gets a credit in the thing. I don't know if he's like some sort of producer or
Oh,
consultant or what, but
interesting. Yeah.
yeah, that's been cool. I will say, like, the fashion of the show is incredible. Like, one of my favorite
Mhm.
parts. So
Cool.
really enjoyed that. And then I, making progress through the Never Whistle at Night book that you and I
Yeah.
have in common right now. And I gotta say, chilling stuff. Like, the
Mhm.
first short stories, a series of short stories, like uh very much like kind of what I was expecting, some
Mhm.
supernatural elements, whatever. A lot of the stories I've read since then, this is like indigenous based folklore
Yeah.
horror anthology. Um it's a lot more like social psychological horror, and it is tough. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know what your if you've been reading through it, what your experience
It's
has been.
it's really I've only read the first 2. I agree the first one I was kind of like, all right, like this is a horror story and I kind of like could tell where it was going. Yeah, the second one I was just like, all right, okay.
Mm-hmm.
We're getting into something a little bit different and it's good. Um I haven't read as much as I wanted simply because launch is still just like taking up most of my time, but
Makes sense.
um I'm really excited and hoping that like this week I'll be able to like settle in now that the hecticness of launch is like starting to really die down. And just I just want to consume this book. But it's also nice because I think with these short story sort of anthologies, I always need another book because these stories are so impactful. I find it challenging to read them back to back to back. I
Yes.
really like to have time with the story and then read something else and kind of let that story breathe on its own before going into the next one.
I think that is very, very true. I think I went from like story 3 to story 4 back to back, and immediately like I got like 5 minutes in the second story. I was like, I have to pause. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
have not dealt with the trauma of the last story yet, and I need to deal with that before going on to the next one. And
Yeah.
because to your point, it's like it cheapens it is maybe the wrong word, but
Hmm.
you don't get the like lingering impact of the short story when you just like immediately
Yeah.
hop to the next one with this type of story.
Yeah, I always think about it like there's this study that came out. I was in like middle school, so who knows if it's even true, but it's always stuck with me. Where this study on the news was talking about how your first bite of dessert is the one that like really fires off like all of the receptors in your brain. Then after your first bite, like you get sort of less return on sort of
Hmm.
the enjoyment. I'm like, I don't know, again, who knows if it's true or not, but they use that as a discussion of like you can also extend the appeal of desserts by sharing them with people because like there's the added element
Oh,
of like you're not getting as much quote enjoyment however they measured it brain activity wise after your first bite. So if you're sharing it, you not only get like the bites but you get the bonus receptors that fire off when you're sharing something with someone. So I thought that was interesting.
I love that.
But I think for me, short stories are like that first bite of dessert when you're just like, whoa, or the first sip of, I don't know, a really good drink, when that's like the most impactful moment of that item. And yeah, I think, yeah, it doesn't cheapen it, but it's like you want to be able to have the punch, and it's
Yes.
hard to capture that when you're reading them back to back to back.
So it's like I have a dessert and it's like cake and ice cream, and I just ate all of my cake and I go to have my first bite
Yeah.
of ice cream and it's
It's
like, well,
like
that
you're
ice cream's good, but it would be better if my first bite was the ice cream.
yeah, or like if you saved the ice cream maybe for a little later and then you ate the ice cream and you're like, "Oh my god, now that's ice cream."
Now that's ice. This is the analysis that you can expect from
Hire
Geeks and
me,
Grounds.
big ice cream. I can do your marketing for you. Now that's ice cream.
Now that's ice cream. Perfect. How about you? What have you been getting into?
Um, Not much too. I wrote in the notes for the show. I was like, I've been wander stopping.
Never
I
stop
need to
wander stopping.
it's like I need to wander stop working so much. I
Hey,
posted that and someone was like, boo.
I boo
It's
that
like,
person. We boo them.
I know. It's like you can't expect me to have a title with that deliciously like basic pun and have me not use it. I need to be able to like let me get that out. But yeah, honestly, launch has been taking up most of my time. I haven't really played a ton of games. Little bit of split fiction. I'm going to be playing more. I'm so excited. Little bit of Monster Hunter, which I'm so sad because I cannot figure out multiplayer in that game.
Mm,
I was trying to play it with Sam and everyone's like, it's so easy. And I'm like, there are 50 different multiplayer systems. And I feel functionally illiterate when I look and try to navigate them because they're
mm,
just like, you can friend people, you can join, I forget what they call them, but it's like you can join parties, but then you can also have the equivalent of what seems to be like guilds, but then you can also like environmental link and social link. And I'm like, I don't know what any of this means. Just want someone to be able to hunt monsters with me. Where's the button for just hunt monsters with your friends?
hunt monster with friend.
Yeah. Supposedly, I don't know how if this is true, but I guess you maybe have to be in the same like battles or at the same
Mm,
level or something. So that might be where we're running into problems. But
yeah.
Monster Hunter has been very fun, except I just haven't been able to monster hunt with friends, and that's
Mm.
very sad.
I had a funny monster hunt story this week. One of my coworkers, we were chit chatting, and her internet kept dropping out. I was like, "What's going on?"
Mhm.
She's like, "I'm having internet work done." She like had this huge eye roll, and I was like, "What's behind the eye roll?" And
Oh
she's
my
like,
god.
"Well, my husband is
Oh
playing
my
this new game." And our internet isn't good enough for him to play the game like he wants.
oh
And so
my
they're redoing all of the internet wiring in our house. And I was like, oh, well, what's the game? She's like, I don't know. And I was like, you don't know like anything about it? She's like, it's something about monsters. And I was like, oh,
god. You're
I
like, oh,
know
I
what's
know.
going
I
on.
know.
But
That's
don't worry, everyone.
amazing.
Her internet has been replaced. She's
Good.
rocking those megabits now.
That's so funny. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, and I've been having some we all need to get internet upgrades because I feel like I've also had the worst internet and yeah. But I'm glad that her husband has good internet for monster hunting and that she has good internet. Hopefully not just for work. Hopefully she has something else on the internet. I don't know. I don't know. Just she doesn't
Not
play any
it, you know,
games.
it's not Monster Hunter. I'll tell you
Ah,
that much.
yeah.
Maybe she's a huge
Shucks.
Among Us fan.
Oh my gosh. Which is
Zero
still
latency Among Us.
yeah.
That's what she wants.
But yeah, in addition to the monster hunting and some co-op attempts, um, I have been my mindless guilty pleasure show. I've had it on because I'm like, I don't have to pay attention to it. I can like take a nap. Is Love is Blind. They
Oh,
had a season 8 that came out. For everyone's just awareness, I know it is hot garbage. I know when I watch that show, it's not good. I don't care. Like it's a comfort watch in the sense where I'm like, I know how every arc is gonna go, pretty much. And I mostly watch because I think the people are very interesting. I was telling you, Joel, subsections of a specific type of person in the US, usually very, very cis, very heteronormative, often very religious, very Christian. But they're all like here. sort of looking for love, also looking for some sort of internet fame, honestly. Like
Nothing
they're
to
all
me
kind of
says
there.
Jesus Christ is our Lord and Savior like getting internet fame.
Right. I feel like, I mean, there are people there who are genuinely looking for stuff, but honestly, like, there's no denying people are on the show and they're very aware of the like social clout that they get once
Yeah.
they get on there. And so it's really fascinating to me because it's all about how they're trying to portray themselves really authentically, but also really in a highly curated fashion.
Mm.
It's great. What I found really interesting about this particular season that I think if you are a longtime watcher of these kind of shows, you will notice this. The women in particular, all of them, were bringing up really relevant, important conversations. They were bringing up COVID and the vaccine. They were bringing up politics. Like one person, she was like, I have a sister who's a lesbian. Like, what do you think about queer rights and like the LGBTQ community? And this is coming from people in like, I think Michigan, Minnesota, Michigan. So it's like, again, from a subsection that I wouldn't have expected like this kind of conversation to play as high of a role, considering the show and who they typically cast.
Wow.
And it's nothing like, I feel like anyone who's maybe super like more left, more aware of these social issues and then more actively participating in like activism, I think you would watch it and be like, this is all like 101. You know, this is all like not even it's like really basic types of conversation, but I think it's really fascinating because this has never been shown on these shows. Like very rarely up until recently did they start showing these kind of conversations happening. And part of
Mm.
me wonders in terms of production is, did these conversations happen so much they no longer could edit them out? Like they were such an important part
Oh.
of this process? Because I feel like before, especially in the earlier seasons, you'd hear about like faith and family and like nothing of substance beyond that level of like, I want a family. I believe in faith and being kind. And to hear even the most 101 attempts of these discussions was really cool. And I don't want to like spoil what happens, but I think particularly the women who heard some of the responses to these conversations and said, that's not good enough. I was like
Whoa.
really excited by that. Again, knowing just like how the conversations usually go on this show and like just the specific group of people that they had on there and like how all of them are very religious and all of them are like not the people you would anticipate having these like conversations, again, mostly because I've stereotyped them on this show, but that's because they normally cast it that way. So yeah, really fascinating, I
So
think.
interesting. Like you definitely have sparked my interest in like the editing of the show. Like were these
Mm-hmm.
conversations always happening, but they were just like less impactful and so they
Right.
could edit around them? Or were they not happening very much and now they are? Like I'm
Mm-hmm.
really curious about that.
Yeah, and I think both differences would be really interesting because like if they weren't happening and now they are,
Mm-hmm.
that says a lot, especially because this is again predominantly het couples, mostly white in the Midwest. Um, I also think if they have not, if they've been editing them out or reducing the amount of airtime these conversations have, and now they're picking up more because they can't edit as much of it out, that's also very fascinating. So yeah, I don't
Get
know.
someone give us the analysis. I want to know.
Yeah, I'm like, I wish I knew someone who produced or like helped create the narrative arcs for these reality shows because I do find them so fascinating. Just because also like a lot of my undergrad stuff was on like performing identity, and like reality shows and performance of identity is just I wish I had looked into that when I was younger, but we also did not have Love is Blind when I was younger.
You know, I've often said that the true key to sociology is Love is Blind. And I'm just glad that we're finally getting the payoff after all
Yeah.
these years.
My gosh. I know. Everyone's like reality TV. I'm like, I more people watch it than are willing to admit it, is all I'm gonna say.
You know, I'm just waiting for Terrace House to come
Oh my
back.
god.
That's my longtime fave. That it's like I
So
understand why it's
true.
gone, and I still miss it.
So true. But yeah, so that's it for the pastry case. What we've been getting into outside of Arco. Highlights, notable releases this week. We didn't have any that really stood out in terms of curation for Geeks and Grounds, but I did want to highlight the spring sale is happening. So if you'd like to pick up games for various discounted prices, now's the time. I wanted to highlight because it just had its anniversary. Chrono Trigger is on sale for $374, and that is an absolute steal for an incredible game.
Is that like 10 cents for every year the game has been out? Like I'm trying to
Oh
do the
my
math.
gosh.
Like how
Yeah.
old is this game and how much is this
Oh
game
man,
costing?
how old is Chrono Trigger? Wait, let me look really fast. Because it's been out for a minute. It just celebrated, what is it? It's 30 years old. So, oh
So
my god.
10 cents per year plus tax.
Yeah, plus tax. Yes, exactly.
Plus a little bit more for inflation.
Oh my
Oh
gosh.
man.
Yep. Yeah, we got to adjust for that. So, that honestly that stood out to me as an immediate like, oh my god, this is so cheap. I should tell everyone to get it because if you haven't played it, it's a really good opportunity to. And if you don't have it in your Steam account, I don't know. It's a good game. Get it for your Steam account. Um so, as always, subscribe to the newsletter, visit geeksandgrounds.com to see the links to do that, to visit the Discord, find us on social media, all of that good stuff. And we are now going to head to this month's brew, Arco.
I'm in Arco.
Yes. Oh my gosh. So, this was an interesting chapter. And we were talking about it right before we started because it felt like, I don't know, not a ton perhaps happened. I feel like we did a lot, but narratively, nothing moved us too far forward.
Yeah, it's almost
Yeah.
like the penultimate episode, like before the season finale of a TV show. It's like
Yes,
we are
exactly.
bringing kind of the last important element to you so that we can then tie it all together at the end.
Yeah.
And honestly, like I appreciated it. Like
Mhm.
I was kind of glad that it was a bit shorter because it felt like we're getting to explore a couple new characters
Yep.
and we're going to learn enough about them to know how they're going to fit into the broader picture. But you know this world now, like you know where you are, and I
Yep.
feel like they kind of abbreviated the experience in response to that, which to me
Mhm.
is a great way to pace a game.
Yeah. No, I think it was really smart. I really enjoyed it. But yeah, it was interesting because there I think I wasn't anticipating. I don't know. I feel like there was a bit, I was hoping for maybe a little bit more in terms of just a little like more time for character development with these two. I think I am connected with them, but for some reason, I feel by the end of Act 4, I still am much more connected to like Tizo and like the other characters that we've encountered previously than these two. But it also may just be a personal preference thing.
Yeah. Well, okay. Let's just chat about these two. I think like
Hmm.
there's probably more interest there in general. Like, so we're
Yeah.
meeting. Is it Chio and Offer? Is that how you pronounce their names?
Yeah.
Chio is like the sister of Offer, is her brother,
Hmm.
and the central drama for these two is that they were trying to collect their gold dust is kind of the impression that I was getting, and
Yeah.
they get scammed and they're going to go on a journey to pursue their gold dust.
Yeah.
And what is to me very interesting about this, like when you compare that to the other experiences, is
Hmm.
one, it's two characters. They are tight. They have a deep bond and connection.
Hmm.
Versus in the other chapters of this game, they've been characters that are very much loners. They're by
Hmm.
themselves. They're on like a holy revenge mission or a functional, I'm burning the world to the ground revenge mission. And there's almost something that feels a little bit like less, I'll use the word important, but it's probably not the right word. Like
Hmm.
something less important about two siblings trying to get their gold dust than these
Yeah.
other like solo characters on their like in the world mission that they're trying
Yeah.
to achieve. So like to
Yeah.
me that felt like a very big difference.
Yeah, I think, like, the stakes, I guess, when you're talking about, like, it's not less important, but the stakes
Stakes,
are
yeah.
lower, and I think
Mhm.
that is why maybe because by the end I do care for these 2, but I think I did feel that sense of lowered stakes for sure.
Yeah.
And I think the whole time I was kind of like, yeah, I guess we're going, like, and trying to get our dust back, like, our gold dust. But, like, how is this really connecting us to these other characters? Because for me, throughout that whole, and we'll see how it does, but for a good chunk of this act, I was kind of like, I'm not seeing the ultimate thread that carries us other than, like, I guess we're searching for our gold dust, but
Mhm.
it felt very, again, yeah, low stakes compared to the connections that we saw coming through with Tizo, and I am blanking on her name, the other person.
Tizo and Itzai.
It's yeah. So I think Tizo and Itzai, like, I could feel how almost like these threads of destiny were drawing them together, and their
Mhm.
purposes, while the intention are different, their purpose is the same. And I'm like, technically these two, I can see how their purpose will align, but there isn't this like burning force that I feel with the other characters. And we get it a little later, but it took a long time to get there. So I think it took longer for me to feel sort of satisfied.
That is a huge difference. Like
Mhm.
with the other 2 chapters, within 10 minutes of getting into the story, they are like by themselves on their quest. And with this, it's almost the exact inverse. Like
Mhm.
90% of this chapter is these 2 living just kind of the rough Scrabble life that they've been dealt. And you're getting to see their relationship dynamics and which one's a little bit sillier and which one's a little bit more reckless.
Mhm.
And how do they care for the people they meet along the way. And so because of that, like it feels more almost like slice of life in a way. And then the
Yeah,
last
yeah.
10% is like, okay, I understand the driving drama that's going to bring
Mhm.
this person back together with the larger group and how that's going to move forward. But it's a very different storytelling dynamic than what we've
Mhm.
had for the rest of this game.
Yeah. Which, I mean, actually, now that we're like talking about it out loud, I think as I was playing it, I was sort of like, what is happening? But now we're talking about it and looking back, I'm like, I actually do appreciate that more than I thought I did when I was playing.
Well, you think too about like the group dynamics, like having the people that we've gathered so far, Tizo, Itzai, their little kind of sidekick characters that they captured or brought along the way.
Mhm.
You have people coming together that are not used to working as a team, that
Mhm.
have been very much loners their entire lives. And so adding a third one of those characters to the mix that has that same kind of prototypical or archetypal
Yeah.
character would be kind of a tough buy. It's almost like the Expendables kind of thing. It's like
Yeah, that's so true.
just yet another kick-ass dude that can
Mhm.
fight their way through anything. It's like that's not the vibe you're getting with these 2.
No, they definitely have like sort of they're like they have the glue, right? They are the glue
Yeah,
that I think helps at least as you're envisioning, because as you're playing this, you're like, all right, eventually we're gonna like meet up with the rest of the gang, right? We're gonna like unite and we're all gonna take the red company down.
mhm.
And you do get the sense of them being the like, if this were a movie, they would be the ones that like kept that group together, like the heart.
Yeah,
um what is it in Captain Planet?
Mate.
Mate. Yeah, 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 yeah. I'm like,
Yeah.
they kind of have that role in terms
Yeah.
of like their relationship and what they could do to a group dynamic. I will say, you mentioned sort of the ways that these two interact and take care of people on the journey. I'd love to dive into that, because
Let's do it.
what was your experience as you're exploring, you see people, what happened,
I mean,
overall?
I didn't get as into the side quests in this one as I have with the other chapters. So
Mhm.
while you're on this quest to get your gold dust back, you're given a lot of story bids. Like one person like lost their horse and you have the opportunity to help them get to the next town. I chose not to do that, and it weighed on my soul. That is a
No.
very different level of stakes than in the other chapters where it's like you murdered this person for no reason. That will weigh on your soul. So it's like
Yeah.
there's almost like a childishness to it, and they strike me as like younger
Yeah.
characters. But yeah, I think, as you're moving forward, the thing that kind of struck me between the two is that Chio seemed to be the more level-headed, but still almost joyful is maybe the word I'll use.
Mm-hmm.
And Afur is the more like rambunctious, gonna make some bad decisions.
Yep.
But also very like they were both funny. Like they were both joking around.
Yeah. I think, and Afur is like ends up being a bit more like curt and like brusque a lot of the time. Like I think they have a really interesting dynamic because I think Chio ends up being like pokes a lot at Afur. That's like really funny. So the sibling dynamic between the two is really charming. It's really funny because I did help that traveler. His name was Zuma, and it was funny because there was like a quest. So you say yes, and you're supposed to take him to like the nearest village. But I was like, well, I don't really know what the nearest village. Like, I could go back, but I also felt a little nervous because I'm like, what if I take him back and he like burns down my home, because there's a pattern of that happening. And so I was like, maybe I'll take him just along to the next village because I was heading to another one. And it's funny because like if you end up in a battle, like there's a couple battles where I fought and he sort of comes out from behind a rock. He's like, I'm okay. And so there's like that little comedic moment of him just doing something like that. And it was nice because we end up stumbling across, is it the Io people?
Yeah.
There were Io travelers and they like knew Zuma, and we actually reunited him, with friends that he knew. And so I think that's
cool.
just, yeah, it's one example of like opportunities to be kind that did not happen before. And like in yours, I think it's more stark because it's like it wasn't that we didn't have the opportunity to be kind. It was almost like, let's please have the opportunity not to murder.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
it's like, yeah.
Like there's even a moment like, you make your way to an oasis at one point, and our old buddy Tizo happens to join you for the night.
That was so cool.
This is how we know that Jenny's secretly a Marvel fan, is exactly these moments.
Oh my God.
The Incredible Hulk's shadow was in Spider-Man. Did you see it? Like that's Jenny seeing Tizo at the Oasis.
A good Easter egg. No, it was so awesome because you're just like, you've got the little dialogue box that was like, there's a man in a red cloak. And I was like, oh, could it be? Could it be? And it was.
And I kind of was like, oh, I wonder if we're going to meet Tizo and Itzai like post their get together and we're going to join them like in media res. Obviously, that is not what happens, right? You spend the night and the next morning Tizo's gone. But my hopes were high.
Yeah, but did you know? Okay, so this is what was interesting about the timing of this chapter is that Tizo mentioned he was going to visit Yorka when you're at the campfire with him. And I was like, wait a second. We encounter Tizo as he's arriving to Yorka's village. And so
that is right.
It was so cool. And so I really appreciated that because I think with the other chapters, I was like, is there a time skip? Is there like something going on? Like, where's the timeline? And they ended up being pretty like standard and sort of linear. And this is, I think, the first time that we really acknowledged that we went back in time and then continued on the journey. So I thought that was just a really cool little detail that we see Tizo before that moment.
It also makes a lot of sense, right? Like we know that all these characters are going to be meeting up in this bar. Mm-hmm. So they're in roughly the same geographic region at roughly the same time. There are only so many towns. The walkway between towns is pretty straightforward. Like you would expect that you would run into either people like, did you hear the rumor about the red cloaked man that came through? Or, you would think that you would hear rumors or encounter them. So like, it feels like pretty grounded in the story for us to have run into Tizo like that.
I would love, and maybe you can see it. I don't think you can actually, because I think each map is aligned to the chapter that you're in. You don't get a comprehensive view.
Right.
I would love to see a map of this entire region. I don't know if we'll ever
what
get
if it zooms out in the next chapter and we see all these maps connect? How cool would that be?
So cool, because and maybe it does already and I just had never even tried pushing a button in the map, but I feel like we haven't seen it, and I would love to see how all of it connects so that we can just map out the entirety of the journey. If I was a cartographer, I would try to like recreate the map and draw it, but I am not. So if anyone knows of any person who's done this or would like to do it, please do.
Unless it's at the end game when you see it, and then in which case put spoiler tags around it.
Yeah, exactly.
We also got a pretty killer. So two things happened before the meeting with Tizo that I think are really important to call out.
Mm-hmm.
The first, I discovered a secret cat in one of the towns that you could.
Yes. Did you give it fish?
No.
Okay. Let me first describe your encounter with the cat. Like, how did you interact with it? What did you do?
I went through all the dialogue options and nothing happened. So please tell me what your experience was.
Okay. So the first time I saw the cat, I was really disappointed. And then I went and like did some side questing and like tried to like explore a little bit. I think I was trying to find like a ball, or I don't know. I was trying to find something for someone and I could not find it. But I came back. I had purchased a fish and then talked to the cat. And if you have fish, you can give the fish to the cat, and the cat like likes you. And then I was like, oh my God, I'm so excited. And so I went and bought fish to give to the cat because I was like, maybe eventually you'll get to pet it. And if you buy, I lost track, I think it was 4 or 5 fish. If you give the cat, this is how I spent my money.
4 or 5 fish?
I kept, because they give you feedback. So it's not just like the cat just like purrs. Cool. It's like first you give a fish and it's like the cat likes you. And then you give a second fish and it's like the cat adores you. And you give it another fish and it's like the cat loves you. And I'm like, okay, something's happening here. And I thought they signaled that so brilliantly.
That's
like
awesome.
Yeah, I would have otherwise just given a fish and been like, cool. But yeah, I was super happy. And then you get some like really good, you get items from the cat. And then the cat's just kind of like, there's a moment where the cat talks to you and is like, thank you, or something like that. And the achievement you get is kind of like, what just happened? This is really funny. Oh my gosh.
Sounds perfect, actually.
Yeah. So it's a very, like, it turns into this very surreal, weird moment. But I thought that was like one of my highlights from playing this week.
It is hard for me to like mentally picture a cat in a desert or like very arid town landscape. Mm-hmm. Like I know logically that cats are literally everywhere.
Yes.
But there is something about that mental image, just like, you just look hot, friend. And I don't know.
Cats love heat, though.
That's a good point. That's a great point.
Yeah, they will bake themselves in the sun. Like my cat will lay in the sun until she would lay into the sun until she's panting. And so I have to like watch her and take her out because she will just stay there. So I'm like, you cannot cook yourself, please.
We believe in roasting cats at Geeks and Grounds.
Oh my God, no.
Well, that's very cool. I just liked finding a cat and trying. Like there was something that was very appealing about that to me.
Yeah. No, it was definitely like the first time I saw it, the joy I experienced anytime you see a cat in a game.
Yeah, especially in a game it's like so brutal, and then like you have this little moment where you get to like chit chat with a cat. It's great.
Yep. It's awesome.
I also got one of my favorite quotes in the game, and there have been some killer quotes in this game, but this one was, "May your enemies be bones." I was like, that line just is tough. Like
that is so tough.
Loved it.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, there are some very good lines.
What were some of the other? So there was only one. So there's another side quest where I had to like go rescue some goats. I met an old witch in a cave. What were some of the like side quest highlights that you encountered?
Okay, so I found this like shrine in the desert. I think I did not write the name. It's just called, it was an ancient structure. It's at the butte. You can climb up to the top of the butte, and in the distance there's like a shrine, and when you leave the map, then that shrine is available for you to go explore, and it's like a cursed shrine. I will say I went in like when you get there, like bloodied men like stumble out, and it's just this horrifying, like someone's holding their own limb, like things are bad. And I remembered from the last chapter, I was like, last time I went into a cursed temple, nothing good happened. So
wow, what a surprise.
Yeah, I did not go in, but I I'm hoping maybe I can like go back to a save and like try it out later, but yeah, so I didn't explore it yet. I also encountered let's see, the hermit. Did you encounter the old
I did
hermit?
encounter the hermit. So the
Yeah.
hermit is supposedly the person who was providing the gold dust you were supposed to buy. And
Yes.
this is your strongest lead for finding your gold dust.
Mm-hmm. Is this the same hermit that we know of? Because there was another hermit, and I'm like, is this just a place where there's lots of hermits, or is this the same one that we saw in Act 1 with Tizo? There's like a hermit's hut that you can go to. Is this the same one, or am
I
I just
don't
like,
remember at all.
okay, cool. I wasn't sure, and so I wrote that down. I was like, this is just a world full of hermits. Is this the same person? Because also with the time difference, I was like, maybe he had traveled over, kind of like how Tizo had moved over. So,
We'll have to
yeah,
wait for Arco 2, World of Hermits. I'm very excited for that
exactly.
drop.
Yeah. Um, I think, oh, I wrote down another note about the ancient temple that I had discovered. I think what was really interesting is that we have the danger of the newcomers and everything that they bring with them. Um, but I think it's cool that there seems to also be sort of these dangers and unknowns inherent within the land. And there is like sort of a magic to this world that we haven't talked a ton about, but this, like, there's the magic realism of this world that is like
Yeah.
very subtle and yet embedded throughout. Like, I think you fight like a chupacabra at one point, which is we saw the like the goblins last week. Um, these cursed shrines. So I thought I just noted that it was really interesting to see that like even without the newcomers, there's still like danger and power to be had
Mm.
within this world. That was just a random thought.
I don't know if I experienced anything supernatural in this
Mm-hmm.
chapter, like this witchy lady Elspeth that I found in a cave,
Mm-hmm.
who tried to get me to drink poison tea, and I was like, "Yeah, I'll try it," and then my brother slapped it out of my hands, um, or maybe it was the sister. I can't remember. Someone slapped it out of my hands. That was like the closest thing to any sort of like mystical encounter that I had. So I guess I am now realizing. I wonder how much my game experience was shaded by that. Like
Mm.
the pacing of the game, like everything about the engagement, they're looking for gold, they're talking about oil. It felt almost like there was a degree of modernism to it that we did
Mm-hmm.
not certainly didn't have with Itsai, and
Yeah.
only had little bits of with Tizo. But now I'm wondering if I just missed a lot of the supernatural elements that would have grounded it more in that
Maybe.
like
I think like the
supernatural
shrine,
experience.
like Elspeth was one. I saw like the little like little goblins on another, I forget what, I was like in a cave and I think they were
Hmm.
there. I think the chupacabra, I think is the hermit wanted us to kill it or something because it was bothering its goats
Got it.
or
I killed the
something.
hermit. So
Oh,
that's why
you chose a very different path.
I did not mean to. I think I just clicked too fast in the dialogue
Oh
option and it
no.
forced me to it. It was not, I did not want to kill the hermit as a player, but I did and blew up a whole bunch of stuff. It was not good. It was a bad time.
Wow. Oh my gosh, that's really funny. But yeah, I think, and that's kind of an interesting thread to maybe pull on is depending on the actions you take, you see more of the sort of natural magic of this world versus the like just sort of the murder. I think I don't know if that's intentional, but that could be an interesting
We
sort of
gotta
line of
ask
thinking.
about that. That sounds like a really interesting line of
Hmm.
questioning, is like how much of the supernatural experiences are baked into that main world quest line, and which are the ones like you only get to experience this when you go off the beaten path.
Yeah, and also like depending on your level of guilt, because I think um I've heard from folks that have messaged, they're like, depending on your level of guilt, there are some encounters that you either can do or cannot encounter. So
What?
like, and I didn't ask further, but yeah, so that's what I've been told.
I need my guilt-free run where
Hmm.
Flowey doesn't chastise me for
Oh my
fighting.
gosh, yeah, exactly. Let's see. So we've done a lot of exploring. I'm trying to think
I think the last one
where
that
we
I
can
had,
stop
like
through.
main quest that I had to do was in order to cross a very hot part of the desert, I had to swap out
Oh
my horses for camels, I guess.
yeah.
But in
Mm-hmm.
order to get the camels, I had to go rescue goats. And so I went and found a bunch of goat thieves and uh, had like what I thought was kind of a challenging battle experience. At least for me, it was kind of
Yeah.
dealing with all of these like fighters inside an enclosed space. But
Mm-hmm.
then,
Was
like,
it the narrow? That's like the narrow one that you're talking about. Yeah, that
yeah,
was a tough
it was
battle.
tough. But then it was like once you've cleared out the baddie fortress or whatever, the goats are in the weirdest places. Like one's just chilling. One is behind bars, like locked
Yeah.
up in a cell. One is upstairs in someone's bedroom, like and not even upstairs, up a ladder. So
Yeah.
it's like, how what?
I mean, goats like to climb. Maybe
They're
this
pretty
is just a
vertical. You're
really,
right.
yeah,
You're
this is,
right.
but no, I also thought the same. I was like, this is very video game logic at this point in
Yes,
time.
yes. You have found one of three goats. Like
Hmm.
I definitely had that feeling, but it was I was kind of like I had fun with that mission, to be honest, just because of the silliness and like the very video
Yeah.
gaminess of it all.
Yeah.
But that was kind of it for me in terms of side quests. Like from there, it's just kind of like the big confrontation with the folks that stole your gold dust. So, are there any other big
Yeah.
things that you encountered along the way?
No, I think that's pretty much it. So if you wanted to like lead us into that finale, here we go.
So we hear about an oil refinery that's maybe having some issues, and
Mhm.
that is where we will find our gold dust that was stolen. And was it the newcomers that had stolen it? Was it the
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, it was the newcomers because I think there was another tribe that we had like planned to meet, and at first we were like, "Oh, did you betray us?" And they were like, "No, they took our money too." So,
Yeah.
yeah, so it's
Yeah,
all
yeah,
the
yeah.
newcomers, the Charlie tribe, I believe.
That, thank you. Right. Yes. And I thought that was actually cool. Abru, a Chali woman who kind of
Hmm.
hangs out with you for the first part of the this chapter. I
Yeah.
really enjoyed that. I kind of had wished that we had her as part of like a 3-person dynamic throughout. I thought that would have been kind of fun.
Me too. I love there's a moment where someone, I think it's like there's this old lady who's making pots or something in a village. She says like, "Oh, to Afur, like, oh, you could get like this pot for your wife." And he was like, "No, no, 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 we're not married." And then Abru is like, "Oh, I have many husbands," and he's too you need to be one.
Yes,
I have
that
many
was
husbands
so
back home.
funny.
I love that.
Oh, so we do make our way into a an oil refinery, and like it turns into, to me, like a combination of Oregon Trail, Final Fantasy, and uh Metal Gear. Like that's what I felt like, is like
Mm-hmm.
there's kind of this stealth element happening, and you end up in what I think is probably the hardest battle that or series of battles that I have played so far in this game. Uh,
Yup.
uh and the thing that ends up happening is like you're moving through, you fight baddies, you move a little bit further and you fight more baddies, and you find your gold dust and you find a tremendous body of wealth,
Mm-hmm.
and you get to make this decision. You have this conversation, you and Offer, and you're like, do we blow this place up as kind of like an
Mm-hmm.
fu to the man? And I was like, first of all, like, okay, if we're talking about disrupting systems of oppression,
Mm-hmm.
this is like, I know they're
Very
talking about
impactful.
it
Yeah,
as
direct
like,
action.
yeah, like they're talking about it as like just two siblings like getting their lick back. And it's like, I can
Mhm.
appreciate that, but it's like from a meta perspective, it's like this is a great way to disrupt
Mhm.
this, like what is happening here.
Yep.
All right, so I chose to blow the place up.
Yes. Good. Okay, I'm glad.
Okay.
Yep.
So the way that this plays out for me is I choose to blow the place up. I set my dynamite, I guess. I walk out and I get assaulted by another huge stream of baddies.
Mhm.
And the outcome of that is a four dies. And it, like the way they describe it is like really brutal. And then I go on to like be with like one hit point left, like almost like this revenge ghost, like
Mm-hmm.
I am become Tizo, and like go through and I just murder floods of people, and then go make my way to El Gallo. So that was like
Yeah.
my experience, like getting to the bar. So what
Yeah.
was your decision and experience like?
So I had a feeling. I was like, I wonder if Joel will choose what feels like the better route. Like honestly, I think blowing up the place. I was like, that's in my head a very good choice, very strong choice. Um, I really wanted to know what happened when you choose not to. You choose to take the gold dust and like just go, just like make it another day, you know, with all that you have and just not worry about the bigger systems at play. Um, it really is the same. It mirrors the same thing, except for me, Chio is the sibling that died. And so now
What?
I am playing with Afur, who goes and same thing, like rampage goes to, is it Termanos?
Yeah.
And so now I have met up with everyone at the bar. Like I knew the bartender. He was like, "Here, have a drink. Where's your sister? What's going on? I thought there was two of you on this silly expedition y'all doing." And I was just like, "She's dead." And the bartender's just like, "Well, you know, kind of what's going, I'm so sorry, what's going on?" And Afurs talks about the Red Company and how
Yep.
we're about to take him down. And then the bartender's like, "You got to meet some people. Something's a
Yeah.
brewing." But
I
yeah,
can't believe it switches the sibling.
I was honestly really devastated because I think Chio is my favorite of the two siblings personally. And so it was, I think for my personal like narrative arc of what's happening in the game, I really enjoyed isn't the right word, but I think I appreciated the fact that like here is someone who said, I know all of this stuff is wrong with the world. My sibling said, "Hey, we can do something to take action about this," and we know that in the game, like kind of either way it goes wrong.
Yeah.
But with my character, it's like he had the chance to maybe do something that could have like made a wider impact, and he didn't take it, and now he's lost his sister because of it. And I think that as a driving motivation of like he had this opportunity and he doesn't have, he needs to redeem himself, felt like a very good reason for him to join like the others.
That is so interesting. Like, because when I think
Yeah.
about the inverse is
Mm-hmm.
I chose violence, and now that violence begets violence, and that death is on my conscience.
Yeah.
So, like, if you don't know that, like, if you don't know the outcome, like, if you're in the boots of these characters,
Yeah.
you carry that weight. And like for me, the weight is I chose violence, and now I'm I'm choosing violence for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
It's very different.
Yeah. That's incredible. I think, oh my gosh. Like that's what an interesting way to, even though the sort of result of the game is similar where it's like you end up with one of the siblings at the final act of the game, like that really colors how you may go in and interpreting the story and how you
Wow.
feel by the end of it.
Yeah.
That's cool. Wow.
And like honestly, if we didn't have this game club and I didn't have a conversation with you, like I would never have,
Yeah.
I literally assumed if I chose the opposite, I would still have ended up with Chio living and Afur dying. So like the fact that it actually
Yeah.
changes the character that you're bringing into the next arc is wild.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I am super excited to see. I'm super excited to see what this final act brings, especially because now, like, we do have this investment in each of their stories. We all
Hmm.
want to see the Red Company go down.
Yep.
And I think the hard part is like with the vision in the pool, it's like we know that even if we take down the Red Company, it may not stop the wider sort of change that's coming upon this country and
Yeah.
like the wider violence that's going to be happening to these people. But like I really really hope that at least we get to win like a battle, if not the war, you know what I'm saying?
That wouldn't that just be lovely?
My gosh, that'd
Ugh.
be so cool. um any last thoughts on this chapter?
Yeah, I think this is like one of those examples where the more we talked about this, the more I, like, in retrospect, really liked this chapter. I think
Yeah.
my first thoughts were it went pretty quick and it was just kind of a setup chapter. But the more we've talked about it, the more I'm like, man, there is like some real nuggets of story experience that we got because of this.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. I mean, I came in and I was just kind of like, yeah, I don't know if I really connected with these folks. They're cute, they're siblings. Yeah, and talking through, I am now like I'm filled with the passion of trying to like make sure Afur gets out of this and like holds on to some semblance of this like humanity that we know he has from seeing the relationship he had
Yeah.
with his sister. So yeah, I think this conversation definitely helped me appreciate it a lot more.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm stoked to see how this all ends and how this all ties out. Like
Mm-hmm.
one of those classic things where you're a handful of characters fighting a whole system that think they're fighting a bad guy. And
Yeah.
it's like, how is this game going to wrap that up? I'm really, really
Oh
excited to
my
see.
gosh. That's a trope that I really love. Like it's in every good Final Fantasy, for example, is you think you're fighting Sephiroth, but really it's like
Yeah.
there's Shinra, there's like a whole thing else, elsewhere that you need to be looking towards. And so I think this game, even though it's a much smaller scale, it captures that really beautifully.
Yeah. I think that's exactly it.
Yeah. Oh
Awesome.
my gosh. Well, I think any housekeeping, I'm trying to remember. Oh, housekeeping. So we do have a conversation with the developer. We're very excited. So, or one of the developers of the team. And so, if you all have questions, please make sure you either put them in the comments of this video, email them to me, or put them in the Discord so that we can gather them and have them ready for the conversation. Really excited, especially considering like just even today's like conversation that we had on the game. I feel like got me thinking about a few questions that I want to ask. So be sure to take note and let us know. And then, just as a reminder and a highlight, we're going to be playing Lost Records Bloom and Rage for April. But we are not starting it, or the first episode will drop on April 15th. We're taking the 8th off just to like rest, relax, enjoy a week of no podcasting. But of course, you can start it whenever you want in April or now, even just to let you know the episode for it won't drop until the 15th. And I think that's it.
Thank you so much for joining us at Geeks and Grounds. As always, we appreciate your contribution to the conversation and breaking things down with us. Let us know what you think about the most recent chapter. We're eager to hear your perspectives. As you make your way through the desert pursuing the gold, don't let the dust get in your eye so that you lose focus on the thing that matters most.
There we go. See y'all next time.
Bye.
Bye.